Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on SAP UI5 and Fiori training. In the last session, we talked about the most important core API of SAP UI5, which gives you a running instance of runtime application. We have also talked about briefly on SAP UI5 SDK. SAP UI5 SDK is a tool for developers, which allows us to look into the documentation as well as the API reference for the entire set of UI5 controls, be it like a button, input field, table, list, drop-down, checkbox, radio buttons, complicated tables, charts, any kind of control. You can always go and refer the documentation of SAP UI5 controls in UI5 SDK. We've also discussed how to create a first controller using scaffolding template. What is scaffolding template? It's a way to define JavaScript files in SAP UI5, putting all dependencies on the top. And then we discussed about how to put our first controller inside our project and then connect our controller with the view. Basically calling the method which is kept inside the controller by using the button click press event on the view side. So on the view, we have a button which has a press event, and when user clicks on that, it calls the event handler method. In this case, the event handler method name is Joker, which is being called by the event press of the button control. So try to understand these terminologies. The press here is the event. This is the event. The on Joker is the event handler. Okay. This is the event handler, which is handling the event when it is triggered. It's basically a function name in the controller. On the third side, we have this controller instance, the object of the controller inside of my create content method. All right, cool. So let's move on now and talk about what else can we do with the help of these things. So now, first we will discuss more about UI5 SDK. We will discuss every control. What are all the things which are part of a typical UI5 control and how can we leverage it? To understand that, once again, we will go to SAP UI5 SDK. So let me switch to SAP UI5 SDK. So SAP UI5.hana.onDemand.com. That's the place for SAP UI5 SDK. Just go inside. And now you would see here something called API reference. Just click on that. And now let's search for a control, maybe simple one, the button which you have already seen. I go inside the button. And now when you go inside any control, typically, be it a button or be it any other control, you would find the complete information and the documentation for that API, for that control. If you observe carefully, you would find a couple of different sections here. On the top of the control, constructor, properties, association, events, and methods. So by far you are maybe comfortable with properties. Constructor is nothing but what is the syntax to create a new object. We already know there are SID and properties. In terms of properties, we already saw there is a text property, icon property for a button. Some of you have also completed yesterday's exercise. You would have realized there is a visible property to make the control visible, invisible. Now events, we have also seen how to use events, which is nothing but with the help of press event, we can write an event handler at front of it, which will trigger when the event is triggered. And we also talked about the methods by, for example, seeing the get value method for the input field. What about association? Or sometimes you would see in certain controls aggregation, right? Sometimes when you go to certain controls, you would find something called aggregation or you would find something called association. So what does it mean? So maybe if I just go to probably table control, I'm not teaching table control, but just to show you guys so that you will remember this concept. So you see, sometimes you will find here something called aggregation or association. What does the aggregation means? how does the aggregation works. So let's try and understand what is aggregation. I think kind of my PPT is working. Let's go in. I have to restart my PPT, I guess. Let me just restart our PPT. So what is aggregation? So by far for an object, we have learned about basics of an object, which has properties, events, methods, and a lot of other stuff. What is aggregation? So in object-oriented world, we have a concept called, in OOPS world, we have a concept called association. What is association? Try to understand carefully, guys. There is a big difference between association and inheritance. Most of the time, people gel up these two things. They mix up these two things, and because of that, it's going to damage you in the interview. Remember my statement, it will damage you badly in your interview if you mix up the concept of association and inheritance. Okay, very important. We have a concept called association, which is not, which is not, which is not inheritance. Okay, inheritance and association both are two different things. Don't mix up, please, I beg you, don't mix up those two things. Inheritance and association are different concept. Please don't mix up, please don't mix up both of them. Okay, in object oriented world, we have a concept called association. The association represents the relationship between objects, between classes. On the other side, inheritance represents the usage of one class in another class, or usage of class, uses of parent class properties, events, methods, etc. in child class. Okay, it's like parent-child relationship. Let's see an example, understand both of them. So first of all, let me draw a very simple example, and I will try to draw here a class. So maybe just try to draw a class. So I'll just draw a class, just pick it up. Something is wrong with PPT today. Okay, all right. So this is a class, guys. I named this class as a plane class. Okay, it's an airplane class. You might have seen airplanes. So airplane class, and now I will try to draw a class called passenger plane. I will also try to draw a class called cargo plane. Guys, what do you think the relationship between plane and passenger plane? What type of relationship is this? What type of relationship is this? Is this an association or inheritance? What type of relationship is this? Is this an association or is this an inheritance? Perfect answer, it is inheritance. Reason being, they both belong to same family. They are family. Look at here, plane and passenger plane. So whatever properties you have for plane, like color, height, engine, whether it is Mercedes or Rolls-Royce, which engine it is, or a Boeing engine, okay, which is the manufacturer, what is the year of manufacturing, are all these properties common? Do you think these are all properties common for any kind of plane? If I put these properties in passenger plane and same properties in cargo plane, does it make sense? Does it make sense that every time a new category of plane comes, I put these properties inside each plane? Does it make sense? to put these properties again and again in each plane. Doesn't make sense. You should rather put it in one single class, which I would say plane class, and inherit from the plane class to this passenger and cargo plane. Is this clear? This is basically reuse concept. This is called reuse concept. In simple terms is called inheritance. So here this plane class is acting like a mother class, parent class, super class, you can call it anything. Okay, you can call it anything. Base class, yes, these are all the terms which are used in industry interchangeably to indicate that it's a class which is originating the common properties. Now you can see here these are all common properties for any kind of plane. So rather than putting them again and again in each child class, we put them in parent class and they gets inherited to the child class. Is this concept clear to everybody? This is called inheritance, and this is the representation arrow symbol and top down approach. This is how we represent inheritance in real world. No matter which programming language are you using, this is how you use inheritance concept. Okay, that's your inheritance concept of inheriting parent class to child class. So everything comes automatically to child class, which is public protected of the parent class to the child class. Now, once you reach to the child class, here in the child class, you have its own property like number of passenger. Do you think number of seats property is there for the cargo plane? Do you think number of seats is there for cargo plane? Is a cargo plane have seats? No, no. So that's the reason you will put those specific properties in the child class. Now, when it comes to cargo plane class has a special property that what is the storage space, right? Because cargo is like carrying the freights. So that's a storage space. That's a specific property to cargo. Now, guys, my question to all of you, if I want to function a software, can I code everything in a single class? If I want to design a software, can I code everything in a single class? Why not? You can. Who is stopping you? You can go ahead and build your entire software in one class. But the biggest challenge which will come is it will become so complex to manage for future. The software becomes unmanageable in future, right? Reusability will be compromised. So that's a disadvantage. This is the reason OOPS was born. Why the OOPS was born? Because people started building everything in one single file, entire software. And OOPS have come and simplified the life of a developer to teach us how to reuse, to teach us how to effectively design so that it can be extensible for future changes. It can be modifiable, it can be manageable, it can be workable by multiple developers. This was the reason OOPS was born. And you can see really there is a great advantage of using OOPS because we have a parent class which is giving you these properties for free to the child class. Your effort of creating next child class becomes very low. You just have to take care of additional property for that. You don't have to take care of everything. Similarly, now let's imagine there is another class called passenger class. What do you think? What are the attributes of a passenger? Anybody? What are all the attributes of a passenger? You are a passenger. Come on. What is an attribute of yours? Passport number. That's the first attribute I would say for passenger. It's boarding number, seat number. Yeah. Price. Passenger doesn't have a price. That's not a ticket. That's a property of a ticket probably. The passenger maybe boarding place from which city, age. It's actually a person name. Yeah, these are all the attributes of a passenger. A passenger carries a boarding pass, right? And that can have a boarding number, point from where the passenger is traveling, point to where it is traveling. So we can go more and more complex, but I don't want to go that deep. So let's imagine this passenger. Now, what do you think? The relationship between plane and passenger, what is it? Is this an inheritance? Can you represent the relationship between these two? via inheritance? No, because they are not same family. Golden rule. Golden rule of, oops guys, golden rule of inheritance, I'm telling you, if they are same family, look at here, they are family. ये दोनों सेम बिरादरी के हैं, right? Plain. But here on this other side, you see they are not of same league. They are not belonging to same league. So how do you relate them? That's what called association. भूल नहीं जाना दोस्तों, तकलीफ हो जाएगा आपको. भूल नहीं जाना इस concept को. Okay, this is association. Look at here, there is no arrow. If you observe carefully, there is no arrow. In inheritance there is an arrow, but in association there is no arrow in either side. Clear everyone? Is this clear? A relationship between two classes is called association, which are not belonging to same family. That's called association. It's very unfortunate to see in industry. I interview so many people with even 10-year experience, 20-year experience, and it's very unfortunate that people are lagging in these basic concepts. Their foundation is so weak that even in spite of having 10-year, 12-year, 15-year of experience in their resume, they are not justifiable for the package. They are not justifiable for a good position in my company because their basics are so weak. It could be any reason, guys. I am not saying that having a weak basic is a sin. It's not a sin, but not understanding your basics, not understanding your roots, not understanding your weakness, and ignoring it conveniently day by day and not doing anything about it is the sin. That is the sin. Not learning it on timely basis is the sin. Okay. That is the sin. It's ignoring it, simply ignoring it ki chalega, chal raha hai, chalega. That is the sin. It's not a sin that you don't know anything, but the sin is if you're not putting effort to learn it. That's the problem. All right, coming back. So now I will put it clear. A relationship between two classes is called association. Okay, it's not inheritance because they're not same family, they're not belonging to same league. Now coming to the next example. So guys, what do you think? My question to all of you: can a plane fly without passenger? Can a plane fly without passenger? Yes, it can. Who is stopping you to fly a plane without passenger? Think logically. Think logically. There's no technical knowledge here. I'm talking pure life questions. A plane can definitely fly without a passenger. That's possible practically, correct? So this is the reason it's a special type of association. So associations are of two types, guys. Okay. Associations are of two types. One is called aggregation, another is called composition. Let me note down what is association. It is a relationship between classes which are not belonging to same league. Okay? Relationship, it's not inheritance. Don't confuse them. Don't mix up both the concept. Okay, this is a relationship between two classes which are not belonging to same league. Is this definition clear to everybody? You can tell this definition in interview. Okay, it's a relationship between two classes which not belong to same league. Example: passenger and plane class. Okay, but association has further two types. The first type of association is called aggregation. The second is called composition. Wow. What an amazing concept. Association is of two type, aggregation and composition. Trust me guys, there is no easy book. There is no easy book which can in simple word can explain this. There is no easy book which can explain these things in simple words. Every typical book, they try to make things complicated for you. That is the reason reading from book is very difficult these days. There are so many books. Making a choice, first of all, is very difficult. And the second thing is, biggest challenge is they try to, many times their intellect is so high level that they try to make simple things complicated. Okay, so intellect should be used to make complicated things simple, but the world is going in opposite direction. Okay, it's going on opposite direction. They presume that you know already these basics, and which is not the right, because everybody does not get through that same hand holding, same initial days of career. When we are fresher, we don't even care about which company, we don't even care about what type of boss, we don't even know anything, we just see package, acha salary de raha hai, good. That's what fresher cares. And this is the root reason, this is the reason why we get engaged into a kind of project. जो लोग हमसे काम करवाते हैं वो हम करते हैं. That time when we are fresher, whatever work people give it to us, we just do it just for money. Our aim is to get in into a company. We don't really care learning, we don't really understand that big picture when we are fresher, which is fair enough, which happens with everybody. But over a period of time, when you build maturity, you should try to target your roots. Once again, go back to the level where you left it, go back to the places with untouched points which you have left it, ignored it, and now learn those things. Very important. So this is my effort towards making you understand things which are left untouched, which are left or which were ignored due to your personal problems. Okay, coming back, aggregation. Aggregation is loose coupling. Okay. Aggregation is a type of association which means indicates loose coupling. Both objects can function, can operate independently. They can function and they can operate independently. They don't need each other. A passenger can travel without a plane. Passenger can travel with boat, with bus, with train. Multiple transport mechanisms are there. A plane can also fly without a passenger, and it's represented by an empty rhombus. This is the representation of such an aggregation, such an association which is of type aggregation, represented by empty rhombus. Clear, everybody? That's what is called aggregation. Composition. Can anybody now give me an example of composition which is actually represented as a tight coupling? Both objects cannot must exist together. They cannot function independently. They cannot function independently. They must coexist together. It's represented by filled rhombus. Okay. Represented by filled rhombus. Okay, that's what it represents. Like engine, very good example. Engine, like wings. Have you ever seen a plane flying without wings? देखो वो plane जा रहा है without wings, उसके wing ही नहीं है, उड़ रहा है अपने आप. Or have you seen wings? Have you seen wings flying in the sky without a plane? Have you seen just two wings are flying somewhere? That will be a miracle, right? Never. Funny. All right. So there is never a plane flying without wings. And however, at the same time, there are never wings flying without plane. I've never seen wings flying separately in the sky. अच्छा देखो वो दो wings जा रहे हैं. It never happens. It never happens. That's a composition relationship. Like pilot. Very nice example. Pilot, without a pilot, you don't cannot do takeoff and landing. That's the important part of a plane. A plane cannot fly without pilot also. Of course, there are researches going on for driverless cars and pilotless plane, but that's still, I would say, little advanced. Right now, at this point, I would represent it as a composition relationship between pilot and plane. All right. Clear, everybody, the type of relationship with this example. What is an association, aggregation, and composition? So now if you come back in context of UI5, how does it work? In context of UI5, we will see, of course, examples in upcoming days, but right now let's understand in context of UI5, UI control and aggregate the UI control. like drop down control has items aggregation, display values inside drop down box. Example, let's look at a drop down control. I will say this is a drop down for gender. Okay, drop down for gender. So right now I would say there are three values possibly you will put inside this. So male, female, and do not disclose. Okay, so male, female, and do not disclose. There are three values inside this drop down. So what do you think? How to create such a drop down in SAP UI5? The easiest way to do that is having a drop down control. So typically what happens is there is something called a select control we use, and this select control has an aggregation with a core item control. So there is something called SAP UI core item control, which is a single control in SAP UI5, and this select control has an association or of type aggregation loose coupling between the item and select control. So this name of the aggregation is items aggregation. If you want to add three items, you got to create three objects of item class and add those three objects as part of your select control. Is this clear, everyone? This example, you have to create three objects of item class and add those three objects to the select control. Each object of item class represents one value. Okay, each object. So suppose I want to create a gender drop down, which is actually called a select control in UI5. To add these values, three values, you have to create three objects. Okay, to add these three values, how many objects you need to create for item class? You have to create three objects. Let me take another example. Suppose a table. How many columns a table can have? Anybody? How many columns a table can have? How many columns a table can have? Zero or multiple, right? Zero, it can have zero also. Let's say I want to create just a table without any column. You can have zero. So there is a column class which creates responsible for creating just columns. Okay. This is a columns class responsible for creating just columns. So you create the column object. Suppose I want five columns in table. How many column objects I will create? If I want five columns, how many column objects? You will create five column objects, and then you add these column objects as part of table via aggregation. So there is an aggregation in table. Name of the aggregation is columns, in which you will add the column object. I'll show you the system. So let's go back to table, go to aggregation, and now can you see there is an aggregation called columns aggregation, right? Minimum cardinality. What is this? This cardinality is the type of relation. Type of relation indicates its cardinality, which means either I can add 0 or I can add n number of columns. Okay, either I can add 0 or I can add n number of columns, 0 or n. 0 or n means either no column or multiple column. No means it's a loose coupling, and loose coupling is called aggregation. That's the reason you see aggregation always start with cardinality 0. 0 means loose coupling. It can either have a column, it can also have multiple column. And this is of type column class. So you see, each column is of type which class? It's a column class. Click on this, it will take you to the column class now. So you see, this is your column class. Go to the properties, and these are all the properties of column class. Is this clear, everyone? At least this relationship between table and column, does it clarify you what is aggregation? It's a loose coupling between controls. So you can have a table, you can have a drop down for that matter, and that can have a relationship between two objects. So here in our case, the table and column relationship. If you ever want to create a table, you can create an empty table like this. You created a table. Now if I want to add columns to this table, what do I have to do? If I want to add columns to this table, what do I have to do? I have to add the columns aggregation inside. So this columns aggregation, I have to add multiple columns inside the table. multiple column objects I have to create, and those objects I have to inject inside the table. I will show you in the system, don't worry. Just understand the concept first, then we'll go to practical. First, understand concept. Is this concept clear to everyone? What is aggregation? It's a relationship between two class. In this case, it's a relationship between which two classes? The table class and column class. So multiple column objects will be added inside the table. Okay. Multiple column objects can be added inside the column. What is that you did not understand, Parag? Can you please brief me? What is the doubt here?
So I did not understand, the whole concept of this column aggregation, especially when you explain the example on the table. That particular part, I did not completely get it.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Did you understood the last discussion about plane and passenger and engine?
Yes, this one I completely got it. But then when you
Okay.
took to the
Now, suppose in
yeah,
context of UI5, you want to design a table. Okay. You want to design a table. A table can be designed without columns. Okay. I'm saying a table can be designed without columns. So you can have a table without any column inside. This is your table, empty table, no columns. Now, if you want to add columns to the table, SAP UI5 is saying you have to use columns aggregation. Aggregation means you can have zero or multiple columns. So to add a column, what do you need to do? To add a column, what do you need to do, Parag? What do you think we need to do to add a column inside the table?
column lines. I
We
mean,
have to add an object of column. Everything is an object, guys. Here it's all working with object. In last example also you see passenger is an object, plane is an object. So you have to relate these two objects. That's why it's called association. You're relating two objects with each other. Similarly here in case of table, you have to get a column object and create an object of that column and add to the table. So the
okay,
yellow color is indicating an object of that column class. Okay. Now, if
okay,
I want to add another column, I create another object and add to the table. If I want to create another column, I create another object of column class and add to the table. Is this clear now?
yeah,
So this is aggregation. Aggregation means one object is attaching to another object, which are not of same league. Column is a different class, table is a different class. So, but column class object is created and added inside the table class object. That's what aggregation means.
okay,
Okay, we'll see it in the system. That time will be even more clear.
okay,
All right. Now, coming back, so that's about the aggregation concept. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what are all the things which we have, the most important funda foxes when it comes to a UI control. So whenever you see a UI control, you're working with, let's say, button, table, radio button, checkbox, input field, drop downs, any kind of control. What are all the typical funda foxes you must follow? Okay, this is the most important theory part, guys, without which it's difficult. This is making your fundamentals very clear. So funda fox for any control. Whenever you see a control, a UI control. So I'm talking a control means a UI control, be it a button label. A control can have properties, events, aggregation, methods, etc. So this is what a UI control typically have in UI5. Now, when it comes to a property, for every property of a control, we will have setter and getter methods to read or change the value of the property. Okay. So the value of the property, to read and change the value of the property, we will use it. So let's go and check it out. If you come back here, you will realize the value of the property, guys. Very important. Now, if I go to, let's say, input field, yesterday you remember we used input field. Which method did I use yesterday to change the value? Anyone? Or to read the value of the input field? We used get value, right? So if you go to input and check here the properties, just come down, you would see a value property. You would find a value property here. You don't see that actually, right? There's no value property visible, right? Can you see, guys, there is a value property or not? There is no value property which I can see right now. There is no value property, right? How come then there is a get value method, right? We need to understand that. We will see that in a minute. Maybe I just go to the button then right now. I go to button and I will just show you there is a property called text property, icon property, text property, right? So for every property you will have setter and getter method, guys. If there is a property, if there is a icon property, we will have get icon and set icon methods for the property. Clear, everyone? We will have get and set methods for that property, right? Now, is this clear, everyone? For every property of getter and setter method. So if you go back to methods, you will see there is a get method, get text, you see, get text, get type, get icon. So there is a getter and setter method for every property of a control. So you can just check the property and have assume that you have setter and getter method for that. Is this clear to everyone? Getter and setter method for every property of a control. Now, the next important thing, how UI5 controls are designed. So whenever you look at a UI5 control, all these controls, what you see, most of the controls are inheriting from a class called sap.ui.core.control class. This is the super class of all the UI controls. Okay, be it a button, let's say sap.m.button, be it a text, be it an input, be it a table. If you find that, sorry, be it a table, be it a view, even view is also a class, sap.ui.view, if you have seen it. These are all the classes, and for all these classes, all these, most of the classes, the parent class, who is the parent class for all of them? This is a inheritance this time, guys. It's not association, it's inheritance in this case. Is the SAP UI core is the library, control is the class name. SAP UI core is the library name, control is the class name. This is the super class of all the control classes, guys. Which keyword in JavaScript you use to indicate inheritance? Which keyword do you use in JavaScript to indicate inheritance? Extend keyword. Perfect answer. So basically all these classes are extend the super class which is control class. Is this clear, everyone? You want to see it in the system? Let's go back. Now check out the button. If you see the button, what is a super class? Can you see on the top extends? Can you see on the top extends? Yes, this is the super class. Can you see the core class? Core control class is the super class for the button class. Yes or no? Do you see this yes or no inheritance relationship in UI5? Yeah. Let's go to the text also. So if I just maybe, so now let me note down two important funda foxes for you. The first funda fox is in JavaScript, the inheritance is indicated by keyword. We already discussed yesterday also, but just repeating it. Keyword called extends. The second important funda fox. If you are unable to find a property, event, method Aggregation whatsoever in a control class go to its parent class, because whatever typically you put in the parent class gets inherited to all the child classes. Is this clear, everyone? The inheritance power, whatever is there in parent class gets inherited automatically to the child class. That's the power of inheritance. We saw in the last example of plane, whatever you were putting in the parent class were coming to the child classes automatically. Is this clear, everyone? This is the feature of inheritance. This is something not new. You already should know as a oops concept. So whatever you have in parent class should come to child class. So if you are trying to find a property and unable to find that property in the child class, check its parent class. That's a golden rule. Let's come back now to the input class where I was trying to find a property for value. You remember we were trying to see a value property? Do you remember we were trying to see a value property? Do we see a value property here? Right? We do not find any value property here. What do I do if I don't find a desired property which I'm looking in here? What do I do if I'm not finding a desired property? Go to its parent class. Go on the top. Can you tell me which is the parent class for my input class? Can you tell me which is the parent class for my input class? Can you tell me? Perfect answer. You can see here, this is the parent class for my input class. It's input base. That's the parent class. Go inside. Who is the parent class of input base class? Anybody? Who is the parent class of input base class? Is the control class. आ गया ना ultimately. This is the super control class, which is the super class for almost every UI5 control. Is this clear? So in our diagram, if we try to write down a relationship like this, so how do we do that? So we will have something called input base class. So this relationship will be written like this. It's not chaining concept. Okay. It's like multi-level inheritance. It's multi-level inheritance. So here you have input base class, and this input base class has further child classes input class only. So your input class is inheriting from input base class, and this input base class is inheriting from UI core control class. That's multi-level inheritance. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Is this clear to everyone? This is the topmost concept of UI5. Another topmost concept of UI5. This concept is known as control hierarchy. Most of your interviewers don't even know this concept. जो interview ले रहा है उसको भी नहीं आता है. Control hierarchy. No book will give you this, guys. No book. Trust me. This is all real life experience. I have worked, don't tell anybody, I have worked with UI5 core framework. I was a framework developer in UI5, one of the framework developer. जिसने ये framework बनाया है, I was part of it. I was an active contributor to the development of UI5 framework. This is the reason, this depth knowledge I have gained in UI5, because I have worked with framework of UI5. I have contributed to the UI5 framework which you all using to build your UI applications. So now that's the UI control, and it has child classes and further has these child classes like that. This is control hierarchy. Now, do you think the control class also have base classes? Of course, yes. It's control base class. It has further base class as SAP UI core element class. This is the super class of control class. And this element class also has a base class. इतना ऊपर नहीं जाना है, but just for your information, I'm telling you, it has a managed object as the super class of this element class. So sometimes you will see a property which you don't find it here. You may have to go and check in the control class. If you don't find it here, you may have to go and check in element class. You may not have find here, you may have to go and check in the base class. So like that, you may have to traverse even more base classes to find a property. Like in our case, we could not find the value property in input class. What did we do? What did we do when we could not find the value property which we used yesterday in input class? What did we do? We go to the parent class, which is input base class. Okay, so let's go back and check. Do we find a value property in input base class, which is a super class of input class? Let's come down, check the properties. Let's check it out. Voila! There you go. This is the value property which we used yesterday. This is the value property, guys, with the input field. अब पता चला कहाँ से आ रहा है? Where is this Ganga coming from? Did you realize what is the originating place of your properties? Is this clear to everybody? Are you all clear where the value property, it was not directly visible in input field, input object, but it is coming from the parent class. गंगा तो ऊपर से आ रही है. You are thinking Ganga is coming in Haridwar. Ganga is coming from Gangotri. It's not coming from Haridwar. Haridwar is one of the important place where during the Samudra Manthan there was a drop of Amrit which was dropped at Har Ki Pedi. This is why it's so holy that somebody who has done wrong things in life or somebody who want to get cleaned up, intensive cleansing needs to be done for the soul. You have to go to Haridwar for that. Haridwar is not the originating place for Ganga. The Ganga is being originated from Gangotri, which is near Kedarnath. Okay, this is very important. We are all Indians and we all belongs to the spiritual life, the spiritual origination of our country. So we should never forget that. Always stay connected to the roots. No matter where you go, stay connected to the roots. If you want to be successful in life, always stay connected to your roots. Never forget your roots. What happens in this growth, in the world of growth, in the world of money, we get in the world of glamour, we get kind of lose our basics, we lose our traditions, we forget where we are coming from. Never forget that. If you want to be successful in life, never leave your roots. Success is not leaving your roots. Success is about being with your roots and being successful and inspire others that see I am still connected to my roots. Wow. Value property. It's coming from input base class, guys. Input base class. This is a super class from where it's coming in the input class. Input class, we could not find the value property. We went to the input base class. Now coming to one question to all of you. All of you, you remember our first chapter, my UI5 day. I had used a place at method for button. Similarly, we are also using place at method for view. ये देखो, we are putting this method place at for view also. We are putting this method place at for button also. You see, place at method is at the button also. It is there in this class, and the place at method is also there in the view class. What do you think? Did SAP UI5 putting the place at method in every child class? Do you find a place at method in button control? Let's go and check it out. Let's go to button control and see, do we have a place at method in button? I go to button and I go to methods and see, do we have a place at method here? Do you see a place at method here, guys? We don't see. They are alphabetically sorted. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, T, Q, R, S, T. See, R is there, G is there, but there is no P in the middle, which means there is no place at method in the button class. What do I do? What do I do when I don't find a property method event association in a class? What do I do? Go to the parent class, UI control class pe chale jao. Let's check it out. Do we have a place at method here? Let's check it out. Let's check it out. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, L, M, N, O, P, L, M, N, O, P, place at method. Wow. Superb, guys. Congratulations. You have understood where the place at method is coming from. It's coming from the base class, the UI core control class. It's coming. And similarly, that's why I gave you yesterday's exercise. Some of you have used conveniently the visible property by Googling it. What do you think that visible property coming from? That visible property is coming from the base class. The UI core control class is giving visible property, which means all the UI controls, be it a button, view, input field, table, labels, list, any control you see in UI5 which is inheriting from core control class, they all get this visible property for free. For free. So you can use set visible and get visible method, because for every property there is a setter and getter method also. This is the reason why visible property is there for every single control, because it's coming from the super core control class. Is that clear, everybody? The power of inheritance being realized in SAP UI5 in form of control hierarchy. Am I clear, everyone? Yes or no? Is this answer your question of place at method, which somebody was asking 2 days back? Anubhav, how this place at method, where do you find it? It's coming from the parent class, from the base class. This is very important to understand, guys. This is example. This is the framework. I am making your fundamentals strong. I am right now still putting concrete into the foundation of your building. This is the core concrete you got to feed to your foundation of the building. If you really want to build a multi-level, multiple level of tower, big tower you want to make, you have to have a strong foundation. This is your foundation, guys. Coming to the next important point for control. So we saw for every property of a control, there is a setter and getter method. For every property, for example, there is a value property. You will have set value and get value method. Similarly, when we have any event, we will have at least 3 methods for each event. Now you can imagine, guys, till date, those who are still working in UI5, how you were building your UI. Copy paste you were doing, isn't it? Today you are understanding depth of it. Till today, whatever development you might have done in your company as a UI5 developer, you were doing simple copy paste from internet without understanding what is happening from where. And this is the reality in industry. 70% of the people who are using UI5 today, they are just doing copy paste. They don't care whether they understand or not. What they care, their manager want an output. They are giving that output to the manager. That's all. They don't care about anything else. When the problem happens, when the product gets blasted into the production or quality system, that is the time they start crawling internet to understand these things. And it all becomes so messy because they have not learned in organized way. This is where you will never have such problems in production and queue system, because you are learning things from basics. You are making your basics strong. So this is bottom up approach. You are learning from very basics. The person who learn from basics never gets hurt into the real productive game. Okay, we will have at least 3 methods. First method is called attach. Second is called detach, and third is called fire event. Okay, this is what you will have. Fire event name. So anytime you see an event, you will have at least 3 methods: attach, detach, fire event. Let me show you a quick example for the same. You remember we had put buttons here. So now I will say this joker button, I am right now removing, commenting out this press event handler. Now on click of the joker, on click of this button which we had put, nothing will come, right guys? Nothing will come because I commented out this guy. I will put in another button var obtn equals to new sap.m.button, and I will call it as id b2. Any name you can give, comma curly braces, and I will say press text, and I'll say give some power, and I will say here I'm right now writing an anonymous function directly. Okay, writing, or maybe I just give here controller dot give power. That's an implementation we will do. Let's also return this button out in the array and just call it as btn2. Okay, that's my button 2. Now save this. Let's come back and run this. Let's see what happens. I'm going to execute this up. Watch out. Oops, it's something wrong. Why it's not running? Am I not? So let's go and check it out. What is that we are missing? And go to index.html. Everything looks good. Odin.exe is running, guys, already. Don't worry about that. And let's press F12. And you can see cannot read property 0 of undefined. So there is some property which I put which is incorrect. So text property, give some power, curly braces, press O controller, give power. Okay, I have forgot to put give power method here. Give power method is not put in the controller. Yeah, this is the reason. All right, come back. And this is my give power method. I'm going to save this. Right now, no implementation is required. Just an empty method is enough. Refresh and unexpected syntax. Oops, something is wrong. Okay, function spelling is incorrect. I'm also a bad typo guy. Let me run it in a different session altogether so we can do test it. So I just come back. And yes, you can see now we have this. So guys, when I type something here, okay, and I click on this, you see it's not working, right guys? Am I clear, guys? Because we have commented out the press for the MVC button. Till here, is this clear to everyone? Is this clear till here? Yes or no? Is this clear till here? I didn't do anything. I just put a button and I commented out the code for my MVC, which was earlier giving me this in the pop-up and now it's not giving. Now, what I want to do, on click of this button, I want to dynamically attach the event handler. On click of power button, I want to attach my event handler to this button, MVC button dynamically. इस पे क्लिक करने के बाद इस पे क्लिक करोगे तो चलेगा, वरना नहीं चलेगा. In simple Hindi, those who understand, after clicking on this, if you click this, then only the my MVC button will work. Otherwise, it won't. Let me show you. So go back. And now how do you do this? In give power, what I'll do is I will first get this button object, this MVC button object. How do you get? What is the ID of this MVC button object? ID BTN. Let's get that up. I just come back and I say, hey, please get me this button object. So sft.ui.getCore.byId. Is this step one clear to everyone? I've got my button object over here. Is this first step clear to everyone? Yes or no? Is this step clear to everyone? Yes or no? If it is clear, let's move on. What is the event name? What is the event name whenever a button is clicked? What event is triggered? Press event. So I am saying in my funda box, for every event you have a method called attach an event name. What will be the method name ideally should have here? What will be the method name should have here? What will be the method name should have? Attach press. Because press is the event name. So we will have attach press here. Is this clear, everyone? Attach press. Is this clear, everyone? Attach press. So I can now dynamically assign in here a function. I can put an anonymous function for time being and I will say curly braces and I'll say alert. Now something is happening. Is this clear, everyone? Attach press. I am dynamically attaching a function to it. Okay, dynamically attaching. On click of power button, I am dynamically attaching the event handler for this press event. Press is an event, so there is attach press function. In this function, you can pass another function, and this function is like passing this function here. So whatever was here, it's like doing dynamically attaching that function. Save this up. Let's come back, refresh the page and watch out what happens. So I come back, give some value, click on MVC button. Do you see something happening? Anyone? Do you see something happening or not? No, no? Do you see something happening or not? No, nothing. Now let's give some power. I give the power and this button has got the power. Let's click on the button and voila. Can you see now something is happening, is triggering? So this is how you dynamically attach an event handler to an event of a control. That's possible with the help of attach method for that control. Now I want to attach the same Joker functionality here. Same Joker functionality here inside. Instead of using anonymous function, you will use your Joker method on Joker. Is this clear, everyone? Instead of using that function, you will use on Joker, which means now I am attaching dynamically this function here. Whenever button is pressed, attach the Joker here. Is this clear, everybody? Is this clear, everyone? What am I doing? Is this clear? Instead of anonymous function, now we are saying attach this Joker function. Okay, step by step, line by line, no copy paste of code. Copy paste would be challenging, but this is easy. Now here I am saying, hey, whenever this power button is given, when I want to give power to my next button, I am saying attach press Joker. But guys, this Joker system don't understand. It doesn't understand which class it belongs to. I'll say this. This should represent the controller object. This means current object of current class. Which is the current class you are coding? Which is the current class you are coding? Which is the current class you are coding? You are coding in controller. So this dot on Joker. Hey, please go to this first, which is my current controller. Inside the current controller, see there is on Joker. So attach that on Joker with my event handler. Again, I explain. Please go to my current class, which is this class, which is controller class. In this controller class, try to find a Joker. Yes, I could find it and attach that Joker to my event handler. Is this three-step process clear to everyone? How the flow is? Just need to understand the flow. Is this flow clear? Rather than an anonymous function, we are telling which function I want to attach to it. Okay, let's save this. Guys, this will not work. Now, our understanding is correct, but still it will not work. The reason I'll tell you. So I click on give some power. So first I click nothing happens. I'll let me enter some value. Nothing happens. Now I click give some power. And now I click on MVC button. It should have shown this value in the pop-up, right? It should have shown this value in the pop-up, right? It should have shown this value in the pop-up because that's what on Joker does. And that's what I have attached here. But it's not working. Why it's not working? Because there is a funda fox in JavaScript. When we use a JS view, very important, JS view or JS code to attach an event handler. Or when we use JS code to call an event handler method, inside the event handler method, by default, this pointer will not point to controller object. To do that, we must pass the controller object to event handler using below syntax. Event name o controller dot method name comma o controller. Now सबके ऊपर से चला गया ये. I understand that you could not understand a single line or single word out of this whole thing which I have written. Let me explain you step by step. Read this carefully, you will understand. This is a very interesting concept, however, very difficult concept for many those who don't learn systematically. Okay, when we use JavaScript view, are we using JavaScript view? Read line by line, you will understand. Very easy to understand. Trust me, very easy to understand. Are we using JS view? Yes, point one. Okay, good. To call an event handler method, are we calling an event handler method using JS view? Aren't we calling using JS view an event handler method here? Aren't we calling an event handler in a JS view? Yeah. Second line clear, everyone? We are calling an event handler give power on the press event for button 2. Is this clear? Second line. Inside the event handler method. Now let's go inside the event handler method of give power. I come here to inside the event handler method here inside this. Okay. Inside this pointer, which is this pointer, is this pointer will not point to controller object. What did I just told you that this pointer is pointing to this controller object, right? This is what I showed you in the last discussion, that this pointer will point to the controller object. Is this what I taught you or not? Right? But it's not happening. This pointer is not pointing by default to controller object. It's not, guys. But we want, right? We want it to point to controller object, but it's not pointing to controller object. Is this clear, everyone? The problem statement? It's not pointing to the controller object right now. This pointer should ideally, we wanted it to point to controller object so that we can go to controller object. From this controller object, we can reach to Joker. But we could not reach to Joker because it's not pointing to the controller object. Is this line clear? The problem statement, line by line, every single line of code. Is this clear, everyone? This pointer is not pointing. Please say yes or no so that I can understand you understood or not. Later on, you will say, Anubhav, please repeat. I could not understand. It will be difficult for me. Okay. So this pointer is not pointing to the controller object. So if you want it to do that, we must pass controller object to event handler using below syntax. So watch out, guys. We must pass the controller object to event handler. Let's do that. I come back to view. Here you are just putting get power. Now I should use an array and put O controller here. Is this clear to everybody? How to pass controller object to the event handler, give power to represent this pointer as controller object within event handler. So this pointer now will point to controller object because we passed the controller object now. Is this clear, everybody? And now beautiful. Just come back and it will work like honey. Okay. And I say magic happens. Now let me put, and you see first nothing is happening. Let me give some power. Give the power and click on the button. Voila! Wow, amazing. Now this pointer is pointing to the controller object in that case, and it's now able to locate. It's now able to locate the Joker method and attach to the press event. Am I clear, everybody? Yes or no? Am I clear, everyone? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, yes,
Anubhav,
yes, it's clear. Yes, please go ahead.
this is Rohit here. I'm not clear with the concept actually. So when we did that press, what is that called? Attach event, right? When we did that
Right.
attach event,
Yes,
is the so can we go through the flow once more? So when you pressed on the second button,
yes,
it is calling a method, and inside the method you're doing attach press on the first button, right?
right.
So and then when you click on the first button, it is triggering the press action of the first button.
Okay,
That's the part that I'm.
yes. Okay, let's do one by one. So first step, what we did is, actually there are multiple concepts I merged here. First concept is, I want to dynamically attach Joker function. This is my first requirement. Okay. Is this part clear? I don't want statically to trigger Joker. I want dynamically to attach to Joker. Is this part clear? Keep saying yes or no so that I can
Yes.
go. Yeah. So this is
Yes.
my requirement. I want to dynamically attach Joker to that. When I want to attach Joker, whenever I click on the second button, that time the Joker should attach. So what I did, I implemented another button with the give power method. I went inside give power. Inside give power, I just got the first button object. So here in the give power, get the first button object on which we want to attach event handler. This is the first thing. Step 2. Once we got that button object, we've got this button object here.
Yep.
Now we want to dynamically attach event handler joker to it. So for that, we know for every event we have attach event name method in UI5. So event name in this case as so we have attach press method. So to attach dynamically an event handler, we can use attach press method. Is this clear now? For a button control,
Yes.
there is attach press method.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what probably I'm not clear about is I'll change my question this way.
Now, let me
When
go complete the flow,
okay,
then you can put the
sure,
question. Okay. So
sure.
I'm going with the flow so that you can understand wherever there is something wrong, it will get eradicated completely. So this is
Sure, got it.
attach press. Now, to attach the joker, I had first put on joker here. System gives me an error that I don't know what is on joker. Though this on joker is a function of controller. So somehow you need to also tell which is the object this on joker belongs to, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I had put this dot on joker. I am saying, hey, this is my current class object, which is controller. Inside this current controller, there is a joker. Please search for that and attach it. But when I executed, it failed. It did not run because by default, this pointer does not represent the object of controller. Is this problem statement clear? By default, this pointer does not point. By default, अपने आप वो उसको point नहीं करेगा controller को. It won't point to the controller object by default. Is this problem statement clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we have to do? We have to
Yep.
tell that, hey, give power method. I want this pointer to be initialized with my controller object. So you have to pass the controller object to the give power method to initialize it. So you have to pass it explicitly. So I go to view 1 and here I have passed the controller object explicitly to the give power using this syntax. This is the syntax to pass the controller object to the event handler. This is the syntax. Okay. Don't confuse with array. This is the syntax. So in this, what we are saying in the give power method, inside the give power method, this pointer inside the give power method should receive my controller object. Inside the give power method, this pointer should receive my controller object, and that's what has happened. It has received the controller object, and now it's able to locate the joker method with the controller object. Is this clear, everyone? Now you can ask your doubt.
Okay. So I had two questions, but my second question is cleared when you explained again. Now, again, going back to my first question was, when you again went back and clicked on the first button,
Yes.
it understood that the press button is on Joker. Even though
First button has nothing now. First button, when you click, nothing happens. When you start the app, here you click.
No, second time. Yeah, second time. So after clicking on give, so when you click on give some power, that means in the backend, the code has been changed somewhere to attach the press event of MVC button to the text, right?
Yes. So there is a joker method already inside the controller. So your controller has a joker method. What I did on give power, I took this button object. You can see in button 2, when I click, I first got this button object with me. And then I'm saying to this button object, please attach this joker. That's what I did. So all the processing is happening in give some power only. Inside the give some power, what am I doing inside the give some power? Inside the give some power, I am actually attaching it. Inside the give some power method, you see this is the code for give some power. What we are doing in give some power. I first got this first button ka object. So I got this first button ka object. It's here.
Yeah.
Now I got this joker, this function joker. So I've got this function joker. I got it here. Now I attach this joker to the first button dynamically. So after clicking on give power, this button click when I do, it is going to call the joker because I dynamically attach joker to the first button. I took little heavy dose today and see what happened with everyone. This was little heavy dose today.
So when SAP framework sees attach press in the back end, it's going to change the div element of MVC button and put an on click there. Basically, that's what it
It's
does. On
basically
click to
attaching an on click at runtime to the
time
event.
to MVC button. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
very good.
Yeah.
Understood now.
Okay.
Give some power and now you click, you see UI5 is printed on the screen. So it's like runtime binding of an event handler to the event rather than static binding, which we were doing. See, this is again not so usable example. Yeah. But sometimes you may need to do, many times have you come across in ABAP that they want you to build the complete UI dynamically? Did it ever happen that in ABAP programming, they asked you to build complete UI dynamically? Has it happened with anybody? Has it happened with anybody? No, then maybe this example not help you much. In ABAP also, sometimes they will ask you to build complete UI dynamically. Sara apne aap ban jaye. I'll give you Excel sheet. With that Excel sheet, a screen should be created. So in those kind of scenario, this example is more usable, but it covers couple of important concepts. The first concept is understanding the event attaching dynamically, how to attach events dynamically. Second concept is how to pass this pointer as controller object. This is a very important funda, folks. So very important funda, folks. This funda, folks, is actually responsible for many things going forward. In fact, we will see a use of this funda, folks, in Google Map chapter. That time I will come back and ask you, what is this funda, folks? Okay, very important funda, folks. Now, this is in case of GS view. One important catch here. One important catch here, guys. On top of this funda, folks, another important catch. In case of XML views, we don't have to do this because this pointer will point to this pointer will point to controller object by default. Okay, by default it will point to controller object. You don't have to do this in XML views. Guys, this is the learning, this is the hard work we are doing, which will make you expert in UI5. Those are simply conveniently in your company sitting besides you and coding UI5, they don't know these concepts. Don't know these concepts. We are doing this hard work, we know these concepts. We will be ahead of them because we are struggling hard to understand these concepts than anybody else. Is that clear, guys? I will leave it today. I think it was a little heavy dose. Many of you are already confused with many things today we discussed. That's okay. I will leave you here. So now I'll give you an exercise. Let's see how many of you can complete. Design two buttons on UI. First one, make me invisible. And secondly, is give power. When we click on first button, nothing should happen. But when we click on give me power and then click first button, the first button should disappear. Okay, that's the exercise for all of you. Let's see how many of you can complete this. Time for your questions. I'm done with the day.
Anumu,
Yes, please.
Santosh here. You actually passed a function as altogether as a argument.
Yes, This is called this concept. ये JavaScript में बहुत होता है. This concept is called callback function. This concept in JavaScript is called callback function. 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 That's what this concept is called in JavaScript. Callback function. This does not happen often in other programming language. इसीलिए JavaScript is so powerful. You can pass function as an argument. So this whole Joker function I passed as an argument to attach press method. Then UI5, what the UI5 does to this button on which this was fired. On this button control, UI5 is dynamically attaching this. So when this button is pressed, this on Joker is called. So that whole thing happened at runtime. At runtime, I've done the attachment of my functionality. Okay. Now,
Is there any way we differentiate a function and a parameter, or we can just use the same
it will
fashion?
automatically identify. If on Joker is a function of your controller, it will identify. If on Joker was a property in your controller, it would identify. So you don't have to explicitly do anything.
Okay. And another question: you passed to the method the actual argument is actually not passed.
What is actual argument?
See, you passed O controller, right? And here we don't have the
because there is no O controller in scope here. This O controller is nowhere declared. See, it's nowhere declared. Okay, it's here on the top, but this is again the object of the base class. This doesn't help you here. It won't work. This guy won't work. So you don't even have the self object of the controller within the controller. It's only this pointer which represents the object of class itself. Like me keyword in above. Similarly, this pointer will represent the object of self. So you don't even have object. This is the only way to refer to the current controller, current class object. Okay, that was also a question from Alok.
and we don't have this polymorphism, right, in JavaScript.
We don't have polymorphism. We have it, but for that you need to learn advanced JavaScript constructs. There is a concept called advanced JavaScript constructs, which you need to learn to understand and do polymorphism, which I think is not in scope of this course. Already with this small example, you guys are confused. What will happen if I give such a heavy dose of antibiotic? I can give you, and that is my plan also, because many of my students asking the same. How can I create a real class and use it? All that is called advanced JavaScript constructs. I am planning to create a YouTube video on same. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Anyone? How to clear input text content? It's very easy. Use input field object and there is a set value. Sir, blank pass kar do na clear ho jayega. That's it. Why do you need to do over engineering to clear the value of input field? Pass a blank value. That is the value which will get set and it gets clear. Simple. Why to make things complicated with intellect? Intellect should be used to make complicated things simple, not simple thing complicated. बुद्धि का इस्तेमाल करो, कॉमन सेंस लगाओ, अपने आप चीजें हो जाएंगी. You don't have to really put much of effort. If you properly use your mind, trust me, these things are nothing. You can do. Humans are making rockets and sending them into the space. Those are also humans. What is difference between them and you? This is not rocket science we are doing. And believe me, this is done by college student. What we are learning here, this is done by college student. If a college student can do it, why you can't do it? Do you know? The difference is just a matter of practice and using common sense. Be smart, use your common sense. Trust me, it's very easy. It's very easy. This was, I understand, little hard for you to understand today. But if you practice this today after today's class, trust me, it's nothing difficult. Not at all. and you will proud on yourself learning this concept. Such an amazing concept of UI5. All right. Exercise what you showed us today instead of pop-up, disappear. I did not get your point, Vaishali. Can you please unmute your line? Okay.
So on click of second button, you want us to disappear the second button as well, right?
No, on click
One
of
click of
second button,
nothing.
on click of second button, it should give power to the first button to make it disappear itself.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Anubhav.
Yeah. In XML views, when we will reach, I will show you how it changes in XML view. This is not required in XML view. In XML view, this pointer will represent the controller object by default. ये इतना drama नहीं करना पड़ेगा वहाँ पे. It's easy in XML view. Okay. You don't have to do this drama. This drama is required only when you're using JavaScript code. Then this drama is required. Okay. But this drama is really needed actually to make things interesting. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day.